Hello, good evening. Welcome everybody to the January 2021 Stanion and Northants Astronomy Club Skyguide. Sorry it's a little bit late this month. I've been a bit busy, started a new job and all stuff like that going on. So I'm going to crack on now, and hopefully you find all the information I've got to give you in this Skyguide useful for the rest of January. So I'm going to crack on now and start off with me. This is one of my Christmas presents I got. I think someone's doing the public a service by getting me to use a mug with that slogan on. Just give them a little bit of a warning that I may start talking about astronomy. So cracking on with the planets first of all. I'll start off with Mercury, which is an evening object. It's visible low in the southwest after sunset. It's about mag minus 0.8, so quite a bright object really. But as the sun sets, you haven't got long to see it at the beginning of the month. But there's a pretty cool thing that happens pretty early on. You know, we had the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn during December. Well, it's not quite the great conjunction, but Jupiter and Saturn are still quite close together, and also Mercury joins in. So on the 10th of January, you've got Jupiter, you'll have Saturn here, and you'll have Mercury, but they're very low to the horizon in the southwest, so you need, you know, a nice low horizon to see them really, and maybe a pair of binoculars if they're not quite you know, presenting themselves through the murk of the low sky. Yeah, it should be a pretty cool sight. And then also on the 14th, you know, a few nights later, you'll have a very thin crescent waxing moon joining the party here. You have Jupiter here, you have Mercury, and then the thin moon. You know, Saturn's going to be, you know, down here somewhere, a bit further up to the right of Jupiter, but it's getting a bit close to the Sun, I think, by that date. Okay, so moving on, Mars, still a nice, you know, bright object as darkness falls. Sorry, so you can see it all month, due south about tea time, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. You can see it, you know, quite nice and high, but it is fading, so it fades from mag minus 0.2 to mag plus 0.4 by the end of the month. But you know, still, you know, very noticeable in the night sky. As you can see here, you've got the constellation of Orion over here, and then you know, the red star Aldebaran in Taurus, and then if you move further on, you'll see Mars there blazing away in the sky. And on the 20th, it actually isn't very far away from the planet Uranus, which is sometimes a bit difficult to see in the night sky if you're trying to pick it out with a pair of binoculars or your telescope. But it is not far away from Mars on the night of the, night of the 21st is when it's at its closest point, I think. But I think I put this one on here to show where the moon will be in relation to the two planets on the 20th. But the next night, yeah, the moon will be a bit further over here, and then Mars and Uranus will be at the closest point together. Yeah, so nice little pointer, nice little helper to find, you know, Uranus if you can see Mars in the sky. So moving on now, Jupiter and Saturn, as I mentioned earlier, they remain very close to each other in the sky, but they're getting further to the west, and they're getting very difficult to see now. I think by, you see here, this is the 26th, and I'll put this picture here just to show you what's happening there. So this is the Sun, still above the horizon, and that's where the planets Jupiter and Saturn will be by the 26th. I think actually Saturn is sitting around here on the 24th, so it is actually becoming a morning object after then. But yeah, definitely by sort of mid to late January, you won't be able to see Jupiter and Saturn anymore. You know, until they present themselves in the morning sky later on in the year. Yep, so moving on again. So I mentioned the Great Conjunction earlier as well that we had last month, in December 2020. That was the Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, and they got very close to each other on the 21st of December. I think the weather was pretty awful most of the month leading up to and coming past the Great Conjunction. I think the whole of the UK missed the Great Conjunction on the 21st due to the weather, the clouds. But I did capture one shot on the 20th, which was the night before. So they weren't at the closest point to each other, but they were pretty close. This was a picture taken with my just my long lens, 250mm lens on my DSLR camera, like an all zoom lens. And yeah, I've brightened up the planets a little bit so you can see them. These are my neighbours' roofs across the street from me. And yeah, the top planet there was Saturn, and the bottom one was Jupiter. And I've just enhanced the Galilean moons a little bit as well, so you can see where they were as well. They were just visible in my picture. I'm just brightening up a bit with a bit of processing. And there, and this glare here is from the street light over the road as well. So yeah, I was pretty pleased to get a view of that. I also got my telescope on it as well. I was in the front garden with my telescope, and here's a video that I took through my telescope with my little webcam. So just to show you, what the view was like through the eyepiece. The video doesn't really pay justice to what it looked like with the naked eye. All my kids come out, and they're all given the wow factor. They could see Jupiter with the moons. You see them twinkling away just there and there, and then you can see Saturn and its rings. So it's a really nice sight to behold. So to see them both in the same field of view. It won't be happening for another good few hundred years apparently, but nice to see them pretty close together. So move on now to Neptune. I spoke about Uranus earlier, so we'll speak about Neptune now. It is moving further to the west as darkness falls, so it's better to get your view in earlier in the month if you want to see Neptune. And as always, just make yourself a little sky chart so you can see roughly where it is, and then zoom in on your sky chart, and then you can make out the little asterism stars. There's nice little triangle, brightish sort of stars surrounding Neptune at the minute. So you could use those as little guides to pick out the blue hue of this ice giant that's further out in the solar system. So moving on now to there's a couple of things happening with the moon this month. The lunar X and V is visible on the 20th. Now this is an effect which happens at the first quarter moon, just as the shadows fall along the terminator of the moon. That's what they call this line here from the light and dark. This is the terminator. And certain times of the month, it depends on where the moon is in the sky. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't if it happens in the daytime. But this month it is happening in darkness, and the lunar X and V. These are two pictures I took. I think this was a few years ago now. I managed to see it for the first time, took some pictures. So this picture was taken with my DSLR through a telescope, and then this picture here was a zoomed in image taken with my webcam through the telescope, and you can see here the lunar V, and then the X is just here, and it's just the effect where the shadows fall across the craters along the terminator, and they just make those little shapes that look like letters. Really cool thing to see through the eyepiece as well. Now moving on, the moon is also 5 days later after the lunar X and V. The moon moves through Gemini, and around about 11:30 on the 25th it is going to be occulting M35 star cluster, which is a star cluster which sits just here on the foot of Gemini. So you can see Orion in the night sky, you see Auriga, and then over here as well with Gemini, if you can see the two bright stars of Gemini, you can then make out the stars that make up the bodies of the twins. And then off here, the right foot of the right twin, you'll see M35 resides there. I see this image here, this little box behind the moon shows where M35 sits, and the moon's going to be occulting or passing in front of those stars, so that'll be a nice thing to see as well. Moving on now, so deep sky objects I'm going to highlight. I'm staying around the Gemini sort of area as well. So the open cluster M35 I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the multiple star Castor open cluster NGC 2244, which is down here, which is surrounded by some nebulosity. Also the Jellyfish Nebula IC 443. So start off with M35. Like I just said, it's off the the right twin of Gemini, off the right foot. Come down to the bottom group of stars here, and you can see M35 sits just around here. You can see it in a pair of binoculars or a wide, good long focal length eyepiece, like 25mm or something. You'll make that out quite nicely. And it's quite a nice star cluster. I think it's one of the first star clusters I ever looked at with a telescope. So yeah, it's pretty nice to see through the eyepiece. And the multiple star Castor, you can see it looks like a nice bright star. I think it's the brighter of the pair, Pollux and Castor. But it's actually made up of it's actually a triple star system. So once you look at that, if you can get enough power through your eyepiece, you might be able to split it and make out the the fainter, the dimmer components of that star system, which is nice. And the star cluster, the open cluster NGC 2244, is just outside of Gemini, down here in Monoceros. And the star cluster itself is this asterism here, and then as you can see, it's surrounded by this nebulosity, which is quite a famous one, the Rosette Nebula, quite popular with wide field astrophotographers. This is my attempt at getting some of the nebulosity. I shall have to revisit this with my hydrogen alpha filter. I think I'll do a much better job next time, but you can just see some of the dark lanes there and some of the red colouring in that part of the sky. I only got like this little bit in the middle. You can see the asterism there, and I've just got about this sort of field of view with my telescope and camera. But, yeah, if you've got a wide field setup, it's a really nice object to take a picture of. The Jellyfish Nebula was one of my favourites a few years ago to get an image of. I think I just had my camera modded so it picked up the reds a bit better. And another one I'll have to revisit with the hydrogen alpha again. There's a lot of red there, so the hydrogen alpha filter will pick that out very nicely indeed. But that's on the right foot of the right twin of Gemini as well, and that will yeah, so just make your way up here to the bright star Propus, and then the Jellyfish Nebula just resides near that bright star, and you can see that star there in my image. So yeah, nice object to image. It's really hard to see with from town due to light pollution, and that's quite a faint object really visually by eye. So it might fare better from a dark site if you want to try and see it with your eye, but your best bet is try and take a picture of it. And so moving on to some images now that we've taken last month, and this is one of Paul Smith's images of the Great Conjunction, or the onset of the Great Conjunction, just as the skies are getting dark. He took quite a wide field view of see the clouds we're having problems with all throughout December, and then Saturn and Jupiter appearing very close together indeed in the night sky. Our friend Graham Algeo also was out looking for Saturn and Jupiter. I think he was out several nights without much luck. He was there with his camera ready, and then I think eventually a few nights after the conjunction happened, he finally got his view of the Great Conjunction, or the aftermath, just as the distance started increasing again, to show the persistence of an amateur astronomer, and just wanted to get a view of the planets, when they're still quite close together. So well done, Graham. And then myself, I decided to take an image of a part of the Heart Nebula, and my setup doesn't give me a very wide field of view, so this is like the centre, like the heart of the Heart Nebula, if you like, with the hydrogen alpha filter on there. So yeah, it's a really nice object to have a look at, and you can see all the the dust and gas that's been sculpted by lots of these massive stars in here, kicking off all this radiation, which makes which illuminates the dust and gas clouds, and it gives them the shape. And yeah, it's a really nice object to image, especially if you've got a wide field setup as well, or even lots more narrowband filters than just my one hydrogen alpha. Yeah, it's a really nice thing to see. And ISS passes are visible in the morning until the 8th, so just a few days from now you'll see them in the morning, and then you won't see the ISS again until it returns to evening passes from the 19th. Okay, so yes, clear skies to you all again this month. I hope you get out there. It's one of the best socially distanced things we can do is stay in our own back gardens and look at the night sky. So I hope you're all staying safe and well, and maybe one day we'll get our physical meetings back up and running again. But for now, stay safe, stay happy, stay well, look after each other, and I shall speak to you all again next month. So ta-ta, clear skies.